So today, the Penguins were eliminated by the Islanders. They were swept 4-0 in a series that was more than embarrassing for a franchise that in the past 3 years had just won two Stanley Cups back to back. The whole series wasn't really close in terms of team play, in terms of desire and will and looking just like they wanted to win. The Islanders had an answer for everything the Penguins did. Losing 2 games on the road in the playoffs is understandable. Home ice means everything. But when the Penguins scored at home, both times they took the lead, the Islanders came down the ice and took it right back away from them. In what was 28 seconds, I believe, in the first game, Game 3, and a minute and 40 seconds, I think. I don't have the numbers, but it was less than 2 minutes in Game 4. And after they had scored those goals, the Penguins never took the lead again. The amount of time the Penguins led in the series was less than 5 minutes. That tells you everything you need to know right there. Can you still win games when this is the case? Yes, but it's very hard. That means you're pretty much winning in overtime or right at the end of the game. Like it's not a good thing. So, what this means for the Penguins in the future, it's a real wake-up call in the Crosby and Malkin era. And it's very reminiscent of the 2014 sweep that occurred against Boston when, they had the nearly perfect March, the March of the Penguins, and, they had just gotten Jerome Iginla, and everything looked like they were very, very favored to win the Cup. And they did make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, but when they got there, they ran into the red-hot Tuukka Rask with a .985 save percentage, I believe, having allowed 2 goals the entire series over 4 games. That's insane, especially in the playoffs when you get all these dirty goals, and it's not the same. It's different hockey. It's not about the shine and the fancy in the game. It's about getting the puck in the net, whatever it takes. So, this series, while they didn't only score 2 goals, they scored 6, was very reminiscent of that, in the fact that Leonard was good for about 1 goal a game, which in the National Hockey League is not enough to win unless you are playing perfect hockey, and the Penguins were not playing perfect hockey. The way I've heard it described was as if the Islanders had a 6th man on the ice at all times. And that's what it looked like, because the Penguins were just getting beaten to pucks in their own zone. I mean, every line for the Islanders looked like their first line against any line against the Penguins. They were getting pucks deep, and they were going and getting them. They were holding the zone. And when the Penguins did escape, they made it hell to get through the neutral zone. And it was not very pretty for the Penguins in terms of execution, team play, and adjustment. Very big, bad sign for the adjustment of the Penguins. They were being beaten in the same fashion each and every game, and they didn't seem to have an answer for what change they needed to make to adjust that until Game 4 was their best game played the whole series by far. It looked more like they wanted it, and they were just outplayed again. But in the other games, it just had this feeling like it just didn't seem like the hunger was there. I remember watching the 2016 Cup run, and from when the Wilkes-Barre-Scranton guys got called up, Sheary, Russ, Kuhnhackl, Wilson, you could see, the way the team was playing. It was going to roll into the playoffs and keep going. It had that inertia. You weren't going to stop it. It's in motion. It's going to keep on going. And they were very dominant that year. 2017 was a different tale. Still a very good hockey team. And even still, the last 2 years, they were a very good hockey team. But 2017 was a year of overcoming. There was a lot of adversity. The Game 7 in Washington. Murray being hurt. Fleury stepping up and playing huge in the games that he got. Going down, getting to Game 7 against Ottawa. And being just as close to being eliminated in the Eastern Conference Final in overtime. When Chris Kunitz scored his goal, had Ottawa scored that goal, maybe the Penguins would be where Ottawa was this year, which no, they wouldn't because they have Crosby and Malkin, but they very well could have been out in that round too. 2018 was a year that the Capitals finally overcame the Penguins, and it was a long time coming. When you have talent like the Capitals have always had throughout the Ovechkin era, you can only beat it so much. The law of averages starts to kick in. And eventually they're going to overcome. And they did. And if there was a team you want to lose to in the playoffs, it's the team that wins it all. Because that's not a team that just beat you. That's a team that beat everyone that stood in their way. And that was the way that they went out. And I think that was the best case scenario for the Penguins. They had just beaten this team in 2 very hard series the 2 previous years, and in their initial cup run in 2009, the Capitals really had never had much success. I believe 1 series victory before, maybe 2 before defeating the Penguins last year. And, they It was their time. It was definitely their time. Ovechkin has been around for so long. They have a lot of good young guys. Kuznetsov, Burakovsky. Their D core is solid with Niskanen, Orpik, Carlson. Holtby's always been good. They were just always one tiny step behind the Penguins, and that was the year that they overcame, and that's what I've been saying. But to lose to them was the best thing that could have happened to the Penguins, other than winning the Cup. And then running into the Islanders this year. Last season, the Islanders were worst in goals against average. This season, they were the best. That is quite a flip from 31st to 1st. And it showed in this series. Their defense was very solid the whole time. It was hard for the Penguins to get even in the zone, let alone get anything going once in the zone. And the only game, again, Game 4, the only game that they had any success was Game 4. They were able to advance into the zone and actually get some good opportunities, scoring, I believe, 30-some seconds into the game this time. And it seemed like it was finally going to be like, okay, we get the ball rolling, we're finally gonna take over a little bit and dominate. But, a minute later, Eberle scores. And that's another thing, too. Eberle just played an amazing series. Even with the complete domination that they had, Eberle was the difference maker, having 4 goals in 4 games. He contributed a lot. He was the most noticeable player for New York by far. By far. And if he keeps it up, they're going to have a lot of success, especially if other guys start to step it up too. But that doesn't take away from what I said. New York played very well. Very, 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 very good team game. But at the same time, you take what Eberle did away, it may be, a 2-2 series, a 3-1 series. It could have been a 2-1 series. Eberle had such a huge impact on the whole series that he very well pretty much, especially scoring that quick goal like tonight, he changed the whole outcome of the series. Along with this being a real wake-up call, it's definitely a sign that it's time to expand our defensive depth as the Penguins. Jack Johnson played terrific this season in terms of defense. And the one thing that the Pittsburgh fan base is horrible at assessing is defensemen, because they expect all of them to be scoring, and they're there to defend the defensive zone. If defensemen score, that is a great added bonus. But when you have Crosby, Malkin, Kessel, you don't need your D guys to be putting up serious 15-goal season. You have Letang, you have Schultz. Those two contribute a lot. Anything that the defenseman can contribute is great, obviously, but their primary job is to defend. And that's where the Penguins have been weak, even during their cup runs, has been their defense sometimes. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Olli Maatta. I'm an Olli Maatta fan. I think defensively he plays great when he's back far enough. His speed is a bit of a concern, but that's something that can always be fixed and worked on. His game for his age, being 23, I believe, he's still really young for as long as he's been with the team. He's only still going to get better. So I think it's too early to abandon ship, but I can understand the concern. Jack Johnson was very, very unfairly critiqued. He brought a nice physical presence to our defensive core that we were missing a little bit, especially once we traded Jamie Alexiak. He played decent hockey, and again, he had his moments, but every player does. If every player was perfect, every game would be scoreless. Mistakes happen on that ice, regardless of who you are. If you're Sidney Crosby or if you're Jack Johnson or Olli Maatta, you're going to make a mistake out there. I think he played much better, especially if you want to take a good sample. Look at the Stadium Series game when your top two D-men go out, and all of a sudden Jack Johnson's your number one, and he played fantastic. As I'm talking right now, Marc-Andre Fleury just got his 15th playoff shutout, and he's tied for 4th all-time, or he's 4th all-time now. I think he's tied 4th all-time with Chris Osgood. He is 9 away from Marty Brodeur, who has 24, who's at the top. That's just a little side note, but always support the flower. Our defensive core is very interesting right now. I like Marcus Pettersson. He's a little bit small. He's very competitive still. Chad Ruhwedel was always a solid 7th guy. He's always good to have around if someone gets hurt. I'd like to see him stick around. But I'd also like to see some new up-and-coming defensemen from Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, drafting defensemen. I want to see an investment there because Letang's getting older, and eventually his workload is going to have to decrease because 30 minutes a game is hard on anybody, whether you're 20 or you're 30 or whatever. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think that's where most of our work needs done. Now, going back to Letang had a very good year. And then the playoffs happened. I don't know what it was in this series, but it's not just Letang. But Letang was very noticeable, especially tonight, which is why his name is on the top of my mind when it comes to this. Our defensive pinching in this series was horrible and led to a lot of 2-on-1 opportunities that ended goals, becoming goals for the Islanders. And you don't want to see it happen, but that's where I was saying the execution and the adjustments in this series were just not very good because the same mistakes kept happening. In the same way they were being dominated over and over kept happening. And that's where I think they really failed and truly lost in this series, was not adjusting, not fixing what they were doing wrong. Pinching is tough because it's a judgment call. You either think you can get the puck or you can't. And tonight, Letang was very wrong. He could not get the puck. There were 3 Islanders on the boards on his side, and there was one of him, and it got pressed ahead, and that's when Eberle scored his tying goal, and it was just Not a good decision, especially by a veteran defenseman who you expect to know what he's doing back there. Especially if the Penguins rely heavily on Chris Letang, so they need him to be playing his best hockey every single night, and that was a bit of a letdown. Justin Schultz is just as guilty. He's done the same thing. It was a bad trend, even during the regular season for the Penguins. They gave up so many missed opportunities. Is it worth keeping the puck in at the expense of the risk of leaving your goalie hang out to dry? And yes, that's another thing. Matt Murray played incredible when it came time to step up whenever his team was kind of screwing him over and not giving him the best defensive support a team can. And he would usually step up and make those saves, but no goalie is perfect. Again, we're going back to no player is perfect. He can only do so much. And the thing that disappoints me about Murray is I feel he saves all of those that he shouldn't. Not all, obviously, most. And he ends up letting a lot of the goals that should not happen, like bad angle goals, in. And that's frustrating to me because he's been known to have a bad glove hand. Obviously, no NHL goalie's glove hand is bad, but it's a significant weakness, I think, in his game. I've seen him let in a lot of goals close to that post, and every goalie does too. But it's just one of those things where it's disappointing to see a goal sneak in, in this little hole between your helmet and the shoulder on the post when you're hugging the post. And those are the goals you expect to not happen. And I feel like they occur more frequently with Murray than most goalies in the NHL. And he's still a great goalie, and he's still, let's go back to the Olli Maatta thing, he's still very young himself, and he's only going to get better. But to me, especially this postseason, that was very noticeable and disappointing. But back to Letang. Letang had a very good year. He's playing some of his best hockey. He's had a tough career too with his injuries and having his hole in his heart or whatever his heart condition is. I believe it's a hole in the heart, and doing what he does still is incredible. And he's still a very good performer. He still handles his time very well. He contributes still a lot, but I still think he makes too many mistakes when it comes to judgment and pinches in certain situations that he could do better. And, as a fan, you just want to see your team do the best, and sometimes I feel he is partially responsible for a lot of the bad, soft 2-on-1, 3-on-1 goals that we give up. Yeah, I think he played very, very good hockey during the regular season, and then by the time we got to the off season, he just kind of wasn't as good as he was. And it was disheartening because, in the 2016 Cup run, he stepped up huge in the playoffs. He scored the game-winning goal in Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Finals. So, it's not like he doesn't know what he's doing or anything like that. It's just, I feel he underperformed for Chris Letang. Another interesting situation, and I think this one has a little more truth, is Phil Kessel and his possible departure from Pittsburgh. I am a huge Phil Kessel fan. I love the guy. I understand there's reasons that people don't like him as a hockey player, but he does his job most of the time. He scores. He creates plays. He contributes. He carries the puck. He does kind of bother me carrying the puck because I feel like he looks a little awkward. I feel like he isn't as comfortable in that role, but he does it. He uses his speed. He doesn't go out there laying the body out or anything. He doesn't go out his way to check people. I have noticed his board play was very good this year, where he wouldn't shy away from that contact. He'd still get in there and he'd still fight for the puck. So I like that out of Phil this year. But the thing that bugged me the most is for Phil Kessel to not be shooting the puck. There was a stretch, I don't know if it was a confidence issue or what, but it just seemed to me like he was not shooting the puck enough. When you're Phil Kessel and you have this incredible snapshot, wrist shot, whatever you want to call it. His shot is very unique if you don't know. And to not be using it, I understand he wants to be more than a goal scorer. But if you can shoot the puck like Phil can, you should be putting 3 to 5 shots on the net a night minimum. Some of his best goals have come just breaking into the zone using his speed, even with a defender in front of him, just firing a puck at the net because it's such a good shot and it catches the goalie off guard. Like, that's the kind of stuff we needed from Phil. He needed to score goals. He needed to, he was averaging about a point per game. He was. He had a great season. But in terms of goal scoring, it felt like he could have done a whole lot more. And this is coming from a big Phil Kessel fan, but I think when he's not shooting the puck, Jim Rutherford's got to be looking at that and thinking, you know what, Kessel was brought in to score some goals. He isn't even shooting. Maybe it's time to depart. And it could be true, and depending on what we get, Phil has had a very good time in Pittsburgh, I think. It won't be the same as a Toronto departure. It'll be, if we get something worth giving up Phil Kessel, like draft picks, because we gave up a lot of draft picks for the players that we have. If we get a bunch of good draft picks or, a good return for Phil, I could see it happening. But he's not just going to get thrown out for nothing either. It would break my heart to see Phil leave. I think Phil's had such a good time here in Pittsburgh. I think our franchise really turned the corner having him, especially with the 3 lines from 2016, having 3 lines, 1 line with Crosby, 1 line with Malkin, and 1 line with Kessel. I mean, that's hard to defend against because you only have so many key defenders in terms of your forwards that eventually, at some point, you're going to be giving up an opportunity to one of those lines. It's going to be very hard for that team that night. And, I think a lot of the pressure with Crosby and Malkin being here has been taken off of him from being the guy in Toronto. He's just Phil here. He's Phil. And, I think most of the fans understand and love him. I mean, he's a funny guy. He's definitely a nice guy. I've never seen or heard anyone say anything nasty about Phil. He might not seem like he's putting in 100% effort or whatever, but there's nights where every guy looks like that. And I think he just gets singled out more because of the expectations he's put up against. But I think there's a definite possibility he may not be here, but I also still think there's a good possibility he may still be here. So I don't know if that's my optimism talking or if, But I personally hope to still see Phil Kessel in a Penguins uniform. It only helps our chances. And the only reason I'd see him go and be okay with it is if I know we're going to get something worthwhile in return. But there is no need to panic as a Penguins fan right now. There is no need. It sucks. We just got swept. But we still have Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin. And for the time, Phil Kessel, Chris Letang, Justin Schultz. We just got Nick Bjugstad and Jared McCann, 2 young guys from Florida who are still on contract. We have a lot to look forward to. We just signed Jake Gensel, a 40-goal scorer on Crosby's line, to an extension. We still have Brian Rust. There's a lot to be positive about. I think with some small changes, this group will end up having a further playoff run next year. I do not think they're going to let this be a repeat. And to be honest, I don't mind losing. We have been truly, truly lucky to have the guys on this team and have this team do so well, even from the Mario and Yager days. I was only a kid. Okay, I was a kid when Crosby first came into the league. I'm only 20. To see the success and know the story of this franchise from the 1990 season to the 2020 upcoming season is incredible. You've had four of the best players to ever play the game on the same team in sets of two at the same time, both having won back-to-back cups, 5 Stanley Cups over a 27-year period is pretty good in the NHL. It's really good. 3 cups in the Crosby-Malkin era. That's more cups than the Lemieux-Yager era. That is insane. That is how lucky we have been. Not only that, our superstars on this team are genuine great people. And as we in Pittsburgh know, that isn't always the case, and we're going to be getting up to some Steeler drama later. But we, as Penguin fans, are very lucky. And it's going to be a sad day one day when those two retire. And all we can do is hope that we get so blessed again to have such great success. It's still nice to have Mario around as an owner, obviously. But man, for the times now and how competitive the league is and everything, we really hit the freaking jackpot. I still think there's a good 2 to 5 year window of possibility left to win more cups. I think Sid is still in his prime. Gino may be on the downfall a little bit. He may have just had a bad season. We'll have to see. Gino is still Gino, though. Just because he may not be spitting out points the way he used to, Gino will still be very effective. He's still a big on-ice presence. So I believe Gino is still in his prime. I still think he has everything that he did. I just think he had an off year. But yeah, there's no need to panic as a Pens fan. It was a bit of a disappointment this year, but I think it just really brings into perspective how lucky we've been to have these deep runs the last couple of years. And I think it's a really grounding experience to remember how heartbreaking it is to lose so early and have to feel the pain of, man, this sucks. I wish we were still playing hockey. But we're going to use that as a segue to now talk about the Steelers. Let's talk about James Conner first, because there's a lot to talk about with the Steelers, especially a certain ex-Steeler. But I believe James Conner is going to do just fine as the permanent number 1 running back for the time being. I believe Jalen Samuels is a nice second guy to have. It's going to be very, very, very similar to the James Conner, Le'Veon Bell tandem. It's going to work out perfectly fine, especially if Jalen Samuels can take some of those reps away. Take some of those reps away from James and give him some rest on the sidelines so he doesn't have to be a workhorse. I truly think James Conner is all in on Pittsburgh, which I'm honestly glad to say. I think he's going to do very well. I think it's going to be just exactly like this season. He's going to have great numbers. I hope they don't choose to not run him as much in the later stages of the year like they did this year. I think it was kind of foolish. I think it cost us a couple of games to not hand him the ball some more because he's still a very good running back. But we have no control over this. We can only watch and judge. We cannot call in plays to Ben Roethlisberger and make him hand James Conner the football. So, that being said, I think James Conner will have a very good year. I think a very encouraging thing to look at is the stat comparison for TJ Watt from his rookie year to his second year. He greatly improved. He had very good numbers being up there with his brother. He definitely improved a lot. I think he's going to just only get better. Seeing the breed of family that those guys are. I believe he will, just like James Conner, continue on the same kind of tangent he was on and just going up and up and up. He's still very young, so that's still good. And yeah, I'm excited to see what he brings to play on our defense because it's going to be kind of tough now. We do give up a lot on offense now that Antonio Brown is gone, but I think our defense is going to become better for sure, but not the staple of our team like it was in 2005, 2009 when we won the Super Bowls. I think it's on the up for sure, for sure. It can only go up. Our defense still played very good football. Speaking of our defense, that's where I was going to lead into draft expectations. Seeing that we just got Steve Nelson, cornerback, we still have Joe Hayden, obviously. I do think there's a possibility they could draft another one for the future. But if we didn't get Steve Nelson, I was definitely going to say cornerback. It may not be a high pick now. I believe probably draft another running back. We tend to like to do that. Definitely a wide receiver or two after losing AB. Possibility of another quarterback, but probably some linebackers, I would think. I think it's getting to the phase now where you have to think about replacing Ryan Shazier. We signed someone from the Rams. I can't remember his name. I know he's a very good linebacker. It's going to drive me nuts. And just thought that he could kind of take over that role and be the next Ryan Shazier, which is going to be tough for anyone to fill, but I think that's a possibility. We could be looking at another middle linebacker taken in the draft to kind of be molded into the next Shazier. But it's always very unpredictable. You never know who's going to take who in the draft. There's always surprises. So, but I would think our highest priority would be on defensive players first and then offensive, considering you still have Ben Roethlisberger, James Conner, Juju Smith-Schuster. Now we got Dante Moncrief. You know, Roosevelt Nix is one of the best fullbacks in the game, even though we don't really utilize him on offense. He's more special teams now. Very sad to see Jesse James go in the offseason. They could be looking at another tight end. Vance McDonald is a good tight end, but James had that long, lanky, kind of Mike Gesicki, skinny, fast tight end kind of vibe going on. Yeah, he was long and able to run longer routes and be more effective. Where Vance McDonald, we've all seen the stiff arm is is the big, thick, strong kind of Heath Miller-like tight end. So I think there's a possibility we could see that. There's always linemen. Always have that possibility. Maybe another safety. I don't know. Probably not. You just drafted Terrell Edmonds and Marcus Allen. I would like to see them use Marcus Allen more. Being a Penn State student myself, I would love nothing more than to see him play out there more, but that's just bias. I still think defensive heavy probably on the draft, but we will see. I guess it depends on how many receivers they would decide to draft if they did. Now let's go to the thick and beefy, juicy stuff with the AB and Juju drama. We all know it's everywhere. I'm late to get into it, but I'm talking about it now, so. I have no idea what Antonio Brown is thinking. He wanted out of Pittsburgh. He got what he wanted. For whatever reason, he thinks Derek Carr will be a better quarterback for him than Ben Roethlisberger. Not the smartest guy around, if you ask me, but that's obviously a biased opinion. Maybe not. I don't know. Have you seen some of his tweets? Juju has been nothing but clearly respectful to this man. He's obviously looked up to him. I've never seen or heard anything else. Even Antonio Brown really hasn't denied it. He actually kind of just implied it even heavier with the one Instagram post he put out. But, I don't know. He must be, going crazy with the early case of CTE or something, because Juju did not take any shots at him. There are claims he did, but there's a picture Juju posted the day that Antonio Brown got traded to Oakland, of the Oakland game, of his incredible, by the way, incredible touchdown catch in the back of the end zone, where Antonio Brown is in the background saying he is ready. To me, it is pretty clear that this picture signifies he understands that he has some very big shoes to fill. He is aware of Antonio Brown's missing presence that will be felt in the Steelers organization. You know, he is a very hard to replace guy. Not everyone could do his job. I think he's acknowledging that. He's acknowledging that Antonio Brown has been watching him and helping him grow, and he was watching him catch that touchdown in the end zone. I do not think it was a shot. I could be wrong. I'm not Juju. I don't know what he was thinking. But I do not think that he was taking a shot at Antonio Brown by any means. I think he was just kind of saying that, look, I understand what the expectations are that you've set, and I'm ready to take over. He's eager to take over. He wants it. And that's what I want to hear from the guy that's going to be stepping up to the number one. I don't want to hear, wow, man, I don't know. That's a big responsibility. I don't know if I could do that. But, so I guess he took it as a shot. I don't know, because he posted on Twitter some video talking about it. Antonio Brown, I guess, thinks that is Juju going at him, which, to me, like I've said, is clearly not. So then he's taking a couple shots, you know. He was going off about Ben. We've all heard this story, how he doesn't like him and whatever, you know. They're not as close as he always said. And yes, Ben critiques players incorrectly sometimes, but if you want to compare what Ben has done for the Steelers versus what Antonio Brown has done for the Steelers, I think it is very easy to see who the team player is. And yes, Ben had his moments. He really did have his moments, whether you want to talk about the motorcycle incident, any of the allegations, which were just allegations, which, you know, non-Steeler fans seem to love to forget that nothing was ever proven about him. Every young football player, you know, someone who gets famous has that stage where they kind of lose it. I can't say every, because I don't think every player does, but a lot of people, once you start getting that fame, that money, you do tend to act out and do stuff you wouldn't do. I think he was just a victim of that, and he cleaned himself up nice. You know, he got his wife, he got his life together, stopped acting out. And I think at the end of the day, Ben is a very good leader. Whether you say he critiques people too much, he's openly criticized himself plenty to be able to say, you know what, you could have ran a better route. Or, you know, to James Washington, you know, you didn't have to dive for that ball. Relax. So, basically where this is going is Antonio Brown talking trash on Ben, whatever. He doesn't like him, quite clearly. Juju posting a picture saying he respects him. He's excited to get back to work. All the things that you'd want to hear from a receiver on your team. That he wants to work with your quarterback. He's excited to get back to work. Antonio Brown quite apparently has a problem with this, saying, oh, he'll say anything to get paid. You know, once you don't have that money, you'll say whatever it takes to get that money. And I don't think that's true. I think Juju genuinely means it. I don't take Juju as a guy that just throws that kind of stuff around like maybe Antonio Brown has in the past. I think Juju's a very level-headed guy. I think he knows his work has paid off enough to earn him a contract. He doesn't need to suck up. He didn't like it, so he went off saying, like I said, he'll say anything to get paid, whatever. Done. Okay, Juju doesn't respond. It's over. So you think. Antonio Brown goes on Twitter talking about emotion. Saying to keep your emotion, your feelings off the internet. Total BS. This guy's the biggest hypocrite ever. Ever. Anything he says, he is done. Like, if he says not to do something, he has done it. He is that guy. Hours later, tweets about how Juju fumbled the game away in New Orleans. And people were so quick to hand him the MVP award after that, or whatever he was going off about. Antonio Brown is only using this because, one, he had a good game. He had 2 touchdowns that game. And because of what the fumble meant. Yes, the fumble hurt the team. But what doesn't help the team is going on Facebook Live in the locker room, causing scenes, having multiple run-ins with law enforcement this year, staying when they're doing their training camp and everyone is living on campus at St. Vincent College and you live off-site in your own property. You fly up in a helicopter whenever you feel like it. I mean, the guy is a clown. The guy does what he wants. So, to me, for him to criticize anyone of anything is absolutely ridiculous. I saw a lot of people calling him out for the game against Miami when they had that last-second almost touchdown, but Mr. Antonio Brown stepped out of bounds. Or, he's had his share of fumbles. It's football. If you've ever played the game of football and you've had the ball in your hands, you fumble the ball. Everyone does it. It was a low point for Juju in his young career, for sure. It was a big moment, and it sucks, but it didn't kill their chance to get to the playoffs. They still lost against Oakland, and if I remember right, in that game, Antonio Brown really didn't play all that well, and Juju had that touchdown and caught a pass near the end of the game to set them up for the game-tying field goal. So, there's a lot of good that Juju does. Way more good than bad. And it was a mistake. It was football. It's a game. But you could see in the sidelines after the game that he was distraught. He went on social media and addressed it, saying how he was so torn up about it and just how he felt horrible and how he'd make it up. You would never hear that from Antonio Brown. Never. Ever. You know who you would hear it from? Juju Smith-Schuster. Ben Roethlisberger. Ben Roethlisberger's criticized himself of losing games many times. You'd never hear Antonio Brown come out and say, yeah, it was my fault. No. He'd just say, oh, it happens, it's a game. Antonio Brown is not that kind of guy. So then, someone sent him a picture of Juju winning the team MVP, and he goes off about, emotion, boy fumbled, like I said. All Juju can say, and he handled it perfectly, was he's shown this guy nothing but love and respect, and now he's on social media taking shots at him. Because that's absolutely what it was. It was the biggest backstab ever. He's been nothing but nice to the guy. He's quite clearly done nothing but look up to the guy. And, he just wants to be a good football player. And for Antonio Brown to take a shot at him like that was just uncalled for, unnecessary, petty. It was certainly full of emotion for someone that said, keep your emotion off the internet hours beforehand. I feel bad for Juju because he's taking shit for nothing. He has not said a thing bad about this man. Nothing. So, it's very disheartening to see that kind of thing go on, but it happened. Juju's quite clearly the winner in the situation. Antonio Brown is just making himself look like an ass at this point. You don't want to see it. You don't. And it honestly makes me miss Le'Veon Bell because while I don't agree with what Le'Veon Bell did, he just wanted to be paid at the end of the day. And that's understandable. Antonio Brown is just going off on a tangent to, I don't know, whether destroy the Steelers, destroy Roethlisberger, destroy anyone that disagrees with him. But all he's doing is destroying himself and his image. Getting rid of Antonio Brown, even for just a 3rd and 5th round pick, was the best thing the Steelers ever did. Ever did. You get rid of that cancer in that locker room, you're going to have so much less to worry about. You're not going to have to worry about Facebook Live stuff anymore. You're not going to have to worry about showing up late, not showing up to practices at all, doing whatever he wants. It's over. It's done. Now you just have to look forward to the future. I know people are going to say, well, that's stupid. You get Antonio Brown. It hurts to lose Antonio Brown, the receiver. To lose Antonio Brown, the player, the teammate, does not hurt anybody at all. It does not hurt a single person. Antonio Brown was the most cancerous teammate that you ever could have had. And I think the Steelers are actually going to come out better for having lost him. It sounds hard to believe, but I truly believe it myself after seeing all the things that he's put this franchise through. And that's the most disheartening thing too, is the Steelers have stuck by this guy through everything. Everything. And he does this and he makes them look like this, and it's just horrible. You know, if you want to go your separate way, you just go your separate way. There's no need to just keep dragging him back in. He's been in Oakland now for about a month, and I mean, the Steelers are still quite clearly on his mind. We'll see how he feels at the end of next season, because I think he's going to be miserable in Oakland. He's going to cause them a bigger mess than Pittsburgh has ever seen. He's going to regret ever saying anything about Ben. He might not agree with him. He might not like his criticism. But he's going to realize how good he had it, I believe. Because Ben would force him balls that would end up being interceptions, all because he wanted to get his touches. And that's the thing I think a lot of people don't realize. I have absolute respect for how hard Antonio Brown works and his talent, but he is so self-absorbed. He only cares about his touches, his touchdowns. He doesn't care if the team wins. He doesn't. The guy is a great receiver. One of the best of all time, more than likely, by the end of his career. But he's not a winner. He's not a winner. He wouldn't put himself last and put the team first. And that is in the end ultimately why I think losing him won't be that discerning for Steelers. So now let's transition to the Pirates. It feels like their season really starts now because the Penguins are done, you know. With the Penguins on and in the playoffs, there's really no need to watch baseball. You check in whenever it's not a Penguins game day, you see what they're doing. You know, you go down to the ballpark, get cheap tickets. PNC Park is always a beautiful park to go to. But like I said, now's when their season really starts. People are going to start paying attention. If you haven't known, which you might not know, attendance has been going steadily down, average attendance. And it's really disheartening to be a Pirate fan because they had a real window from about 2013 to 2016 where they were hitting the wild card games and they were finally playing well, where they could have been making some good playoff runs, and you know, instead Bob Nutting didn't want to spend his money and went its own way. It's sad because I remember growing up being, 12, 13, when the Pirates were starting to hit around 500 for their record and they were going above. How exciting that was. Now that's about where they're at. They're over 500, but they're not quite in the playoffs, and it sucks. It sucks because you know they could have had it. They could have spent more money. They could have kept Russell Martin. They could have done so many things to keep the streak going. Not trading certain pitchers. You know, there were so many people that were so invested in Pittsburgh, like Garrett Cole, that were just, the guy was double fisting beers at Penguins playoff games. That is as Pittsburgh as it gets. I believe they were Iron Cities, too. I hope they were Iron Cities, because that would be as Pittsburgh as it gets, wearing an Ian Cole jersey, because obviously his last name. But A.J. Burnett was very Pittsburgh. Andrew McCutchen named his freaking kid Steele as they traded him. Pittsburgh is such a special place for athletes. Anyone, if you live here, Pittsburgh is your home. You could live here for 1 year. You will say Pittsburgh is your home. But it sucks because they drove those guys away. The guys that were fully invested, they were here, drove them away. Drove them away. For nothing. Just for money. Whatever. Save a few dimes. It's whatever. It just sucks seeing how successful the Steelers and the Penguins are to know that your baseball team could have had that and could still have it, but they just don't want to put the money into the team. It sucks being 20 and never having really seen a winning baseball team, a team with a chance to win the World Series. Because even when they got to the National League Division Series against Cardinals, you knew there was no chance that they were going to win the World Series. They weren't good enough yet, but there was that hope that, okay, they got here. Now they can build on what they have, and they can go further. No. Instead, the San Francisco Giants come and freaking wreck them in the wild card game and then go win the World Series themselves. With Travis Ishikawa, I believe, who was a Pirates player at one point during the year, he hit the walk-off home run to win the World Series. Unbelievable. But, the Pirates are going to be mediocre at best. We finally got Jung Ho Kong back. I hope that dude hits some bombs. I love watching him bat. That big kick he takes, kick step. Oh, man. Dude can hit the freaking ball. He also hits poles whenever he drives and should probably have a chauffeur at all times while in the States. Just kidding. It's not funny. But, seriously, don't let that guy drive. We could go on and on about Pirate players that, Neil Walker, for God's sakes. The guy grew up here. How do you drive a hometown guy out? They could have got him for a steal. He probably would have taken a hometown discount, and they wouldn't invest in him. But it's alright. It's just, you expect better out of a team that dawns themselves as a city of champions, that's all. You want to see your team win. That's all it is. Hopefully one day I can say I'll see the Pirates win a World Series, but it happened for the Cubs, it happened for the Red Sox. It could happen for us. I'm sure the Yankees will win about 20 more before it happens again, but it could happen. Aside from that, I don't think there's really much to talk about at the moment. It's going to be a lot of Pirate talk, I guess, because, unless Antonio Brown decides to give me some more juicy Twitter stuff, I would appreciate it, definitely. The draft will be coming up. We'll talk about that. We can watch Penguins clean out day for their lockers, see what they're saying, see what the attitude is. The NFL draft, like I said. Yep, and that's going to be a whole lot of Pirate talk, a whole lot of Jung-Ho, baby. I hope they prove me wrong. I hope they're a little bit better than mediocre. Heck, if they could even get back into the wild card game, that'd be lit. But, unfortunately, I don't think it'll happen. I think they'll be above 500. Not quite in the playoffs. They're going to be in that middle zone. We'll also see, though, because it doesn't look like their division's doing too hot. Milwaukee will probably win out again. That's kind of what I wish the Pirates would, that's what you wish to happen. You have those kind of couple of bad years, and all of a sudden you flip the script and you're on top of your division, dominating. That's what I want to see out of the Pirates, but I know it's not going to happen, and it sucks. But... well, that's all I have. That was a good 55 minutes of me either talking or leaving long, awkward pauses. Not knowing what to say, thinking out my thoughts. But if you did listen, hopefully you enjoyed. Yep, first attempt at this. I think it went okay. Sucks that it was on such bad circumstances. Wish it could have started at like, hey, the Penguins swept the Islanders, or hey, the Penguins are up on the Islanders, or hey, even the Penguins are down to the Islanders but still have a chance. But tis not. Tis not the case. We'll see when I get around to posting another one of these. May not be as much to talk about. I hope there will be nothing more that I love in life than Pittsburgh sports. But unfortunately, it is going to be that dry season where there's baseball, baseball, some more baseball, baseball. Hey, look, NFL draft, NHL offseason maybe. That's about it. Then just more baseball, 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 baseball. Steelers training camp, thank God, something else to talk about. It'll be interesting for sure. It'll be an interesting summer, I hope. But that's all I have, so like I said, if you listen, thank you, and